Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, folks. Let me tell you, the sabotage is on, and the sabotage is on in full flight, full suit, however you want to put it. And it is something that we have got to tackle right away. Please listen to this show today. It is extraordinarily important. Please share this show today. Please stick with me today as long as you can, because there's much that I want to talk about. There's much that I want to talk to you about. There's much that I want you to see. I have some videos here to kind of enlighten you as to what's happening, both from I don't want to call it too much of a psychological standpoint and others, but this is a very, very important show for us to be with today. So I'm asking you all to stay with me. I'm asking you all to share the show. We need you to share the show as soon as you're here. Go ahead and share the show, because right now what they're doing with a lot of what Bernie and Elizabeth and others are attempting to do, it is going to be a big problem. 937, I'm coming to you in a second. Let me go ahead and queue up a few more of these things, and then I'll get to you, 937. Let's see. So, folks, I'm asking you, stay with me on the program today. It is extraordinarily important that we get this subject tackled, because the sabotage that they're attempting to do today, not only today, but going forward, is serious. A lot of folks don't understand what we are doing. A lot of folks don't understand Medicare for all. A lot of folks are easily swayed. A lot of folks there's just so much that we have to cover. So as I build here, I'm asking you, let's stick together. Before I get to the show, since there's a call on already, let me go ahead and take the call, just so I don't have that person waiting too long, and then we'll proceed with this, get the show started. Caller, come on in. Caller? Caller, you're on. Okay, person at 937, you're on. If you want to speak, I can't hear you. You may be on mute. Caller on 937. Caller on 937. Okay, I'll put you back on hold. And,
this is...
Oops, I think I just heard you. Okay, come on in, 937.
Yeah, this is Bill in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, Bill, talk to me.
I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to listen into your show.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
I thought the topic was very interesting. I just had a meeting today with a candidate who is telling me that she can't sell Medicare for all to the people around here. And I was telling her all the reasons that, not trying to sell it is probably not a good thing. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the rest of your program to hear what people have to say.
Excellent. I am glad that you're here, sir, because let me tell you, it's not about, you don't really have to sell Medicare for all. For all practical purposes, it sells itself when the truth is told. The problem is that we have organizations right now, and that is what we're going to discuss on the program today. We have organizations today that are intent on, in fact, You're going to hear the blog of the week when we talk about third way. So let me put you back on hold and get the program started, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, my friend. Okay, where we're going to start is we're going to start immediately with the program this way, and here we go. Title of the show today is Likely All-Out War If Corporatist Democrats Continue Their Sabotage of Medicare for All. Subtitle of the show, Corporatist Democrats, and notice I'm saying Corporatist Democrats because the truth of the matter is most Democrats, the truth of the matter is most American citizens want what Medicare for All is offering. There's an all-out war and all-out deception not only by the right wing. One would have a tendency to believe it's only the right wing that's doing this. Sometimes your enemy is right within. Corporatist Democrats through centrist orgs like Third Way are developing messages to sabotage Medicare for All in the minds of Democrats. And they're doing it in the minds of Democrats right now because why? We're in the primaries and they are intent. In their minds, Elizabeth Warren cannot win. In their minds, Bernie Sanders cannot win. In their minds, nobody who supports a pure Medicare for All can win. Democrats and most Americans want Medicare for All. Unfortunately, the plutocracy and their wards, both the Republican and Democratic establishment, are intent on sabotaging it via psychological sabotage. But two can play the game. Progressives must play it honestly and ensure that the Democratic masses necessarily lose trust in the establishment implicitly and trust only the deserving. Anyone using these methods to deny Americans Medicare for All is neither ethical or moral. And I want you to understand that statement that I just said there because I mean it. Anybody that you hear right now opposing Medicare for All on any grounds, they are neither moral or ethical because the arithmetic, the math is absolute. There is no way you can support a single payer system is always, from a mathematical standpoint, it is not a possibility otherwise to be more efficient, to be better in all else being equal, to be better. And what we have to do, those of us that are supporting Medicare for All and those of us that are attempting to promote Medicare for All, it is imperative on us, my brothers and my sisters. It is imperative on us to know the material so that we can then present it to our peers. Because when that politician, the young man that just came on the phone that said, oh, they're telling me that nobody wants Medicare for All. They're telling me that it's not possible, Americans don't want it. It's a lie. I want to present you with the very first reason why you need Medicare for All, and I'm going to play something. As you know, GM is on strike right now. The people at GM are on strike. I want you to listen to this. I'm going to play this more than one time as we bring more people in and out. But I want to play this for you. Please listen keenly to this man.
We're supposed to have our benefits to the end of the month. Company decided they were going to cut them yesterday before the union was ready to take over with our strike fund. And we've had a couple members been sick. They couldn't get treated. We got a member with kid has cancer, went to get his treatment and couldn't get it. So we don't have 10 grand to put down and get reimbursed for. We're on strike. So they cut our benefits. They're affecting our families and kids. And this isn't a company that cares about people. This is a company that cares about the dollar. And there's another example right there. They don't care about this kid with cancer and his treatment. They just want us to pay for it.
Now, why did I play that piece there before I got into anything? Most people that are opposing Medicare for All don't understand what's going on. They don't understand that they are owned by their corporations. They don't understand that the corporation itself can use their health care to sabotage them, to hold them hostage, to prevent them from moving forward in life. That is how we sell Medicare for All. This example from this union worker, he's on strike. He has, or one of his friends has a kid with cancer. They go in to get their care. They cannot get their care because they're on strike. the company is holding that over their heads. What would they do? If they hold that over enough people's heads, oh, they'll take whatever they can get. They'll go be slaves to the corporation again. Why? Because they need the coverage. When you have health care attached to your place of employment, what happens then is your corporation owns you. You will take whatever you must take from that corporation. If you have Medicare for all, whether you're working for XYZ, whether you're working for McDonald's or you're working for GM, you have coverage. You can go to the hospital and it won't bankrupt you, and you will pay nothing out of pocket. But everybody pays. How does everybody pay? Through their taxes. Remember, right now, everybody pays a lot of taxes for health care. Your premium for your health insurance is a tax. It's a tax because you have to have health care. So therefore, you have to pay. Instead of paying it to a private insurance company, if you're paying it to one nonprofit that is there to serve you and not serve the people who depend on making a profit from your sickness, who do you think gets taken care of? You do. So folks, it's very important for us to understand that. Now, when polled, beforehand, before I go there, I need to bring you to another point, and it goes as follows. If we take a look at why messaging is so difficult, it's because the wealthy in this country, the rich in this country, they have the money to go to think tanks. And these think tanks are able to feel you out. They're able to look at all of your fears. They're able to look at what can I do to make that person out there fear something that is necessary for them. What can I do to make sure and make them fearful? So I'm going to explain that to you with the blog of the week. So folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, this morning the show was supposed to be about Mr. Harrison, Jaime Harrison, who is now running against Lindsey Graham. He's going to beat Lindsey Graham, and we're going to get another Democratic seat. But the president of Indivisible Houston sent me a note. He sent that video, that first video that I showed, where that guy his friend was losing their insurance because they're on strike, and a cancer patient was going to be on. So, he sent that video, and I said immediately after seeing that video, that has got to be the show today. That has got to be the show today. And then Daniel sent me another link, and that link is now going to be today our blog of the week. I didn't write it. It was written by Sahil Kapoor of Bloomberg. And it is important that we understand what this is saying now, because this is going to show us why it's going to be very difficult for us, and why we must endure, and why we must continue to fight the fight, why we must continue to let folks know the truth. And here it goes. The title of the piece that he sent me is called Biden-Linked Firm Tests Messages to Undercut Medicare for All. Here's a presidential candidate, purportedly who cares about you, is a part of the group that is funding your misinformation. He is a part of the group that is funding your misinformation, people. So let's go ahead and understand what's going on here now. Let's start. It goes as follows. A new poll by a firm linked to Joe Biden is testing out messages designed to undercut support among Democrats for Medicare for All, one of the most contentious issues splitting the party's top presidential contenders. Again, listen to what I just said. Joe Biden is testing messages designed to undercut support among Democrats for Medicare for All. The survey commissioned by the centrist Democratic think tank Third Way, and anytime you hear these centrist positions, Third Way and Resolve, and there are a couple others, right? Their intent is to misrepresent progressive values as something unattainable. But anyway, Third Way found that primary voters start favoring the government-run healthcare system by a margin of 70 to 21. I want to read that again. In other words, if you go ahead and test Medicare for all on Americans, Americans will tell you straight up, we support Medicare for all by a 70% margin, people. Hello, Maywood, welcome aboard. By a 70% margin, Americans support Medicare for all. So, what gives? What gives? We have to understand what gives. And let me tell you what gives here. The studies show that Democrats are most swayed by the arguments that the program would impose a heavy cost on taxpayers and threaten Medicare for senior citizens. Remember what I said earlier on. Make them fear. Make them fear. And if you can make people fear, you can lie to them. And I'm going to play you a piece from Gladwell later on to show you how these things work. But anyhow, so scare the old people and tell them, oh, this new Medicare is not going to be good for you as Medicare for all. Scare them to death. And also tell the average working American, oh, your taxes are going to go way up if you have to pay for Medicare for all. Both lies. You know, they tried to get Elizabeth Warren to say that taxes are going to go up if she institutes her version of Medicare for all. And she refused to do it. Elizabeth Warren says the total cost to the American citizen is going to be much less if we implement Medicare for all. And he kept on, the MSNBC host just kept on beating up on her. But is it going to go up? Then Stephanopoulos did the same thing. But aren't taxes going to go up? And she kept her same answer. The cost to the American citizen will go down. Chris Matthews couldn't get it out of her, and she stuck to the message, and I hope she sticks to that message because it's a fraud. Let me tell you what the fraud is before I continue. Medicare for all is not free. It's not free for anybody. Well, it's only free for people who make absolutely no money. But if you're working for yourself or otherwise, you will pay Medicare for all just like you pay for Social Security or anything else. Well, right now you're not paying for that. Right now you go to a private company and you pay that tax, that medical care tax, you pay to a private company right now on the order of over $1,000 or more for many people for a family per month. That's what you pay in taxes to a private company. That private company takes that tax that you pay to them to go ahead and pay executives millions of dollars and pay shareholders millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and pay for advertising and pay for databases, and all these things are duplicated, and then the doctor's office has to pay new employees to fight with these different insurance companies so that they can get paid. All of that money is what you pay in the long run, because when you go to the doctor's office and he charges you a fee, that fee is based on how many employees he has to have to go fight for the money from the insurance companies and your money, etc. So altogether, the private insurance system is a racket designed to make a few people a whole lot of money. Okay? So let's look at it the way things really are. So that is what the tax. So your taxes are not going up because consider what you pay to private insurance companies. It is nothing more than a tax. Why is it a tax? Because you must have it. That is why it's a tax. Let nobody fool you. Let nobody get to you otherwise on that issue. Continuing. The poll conducted, I'm continuing the article. The poll conducted by Lisa Grove of Anzalone List Grove Research. Her partner, John Anzalone, is a chief pollster and an advisor to Joe Biden, who opposes Medicare for all and wants to make government-run insurance optional. Biden's main rivals, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, support Medicare for all, which would eliminate private insurance and create a system model on Medicare that automatically covers all Americans. And by the way, A right-wing study was done that showed Medicare for all costs less than, and this was done by the right wing, and they kind of talked about it and then they made it quiet. So therefore, it came out and it says Medicare for all, the totality of the cost of Medicare for all is less than with the private insurance company. And that's not hard to figure out, it's math. If you have to give millions of dollars to executives, if you have to give millions of dollars to shareholders, those are, and multiple databases, those are costs Medicare for all does not have at all. And guess what is a kicker? You can still go to your private doctor, to any doctor that you like. You can go to, because you know what? You don't have the restrictions where, we'll go into those restrictions with the lies about private healthcare. We'll go into that, why private healthcare, private insurance is so dangerous and so bad. We'll go into that afterwards. Anyhow, the survey found that Democrats are most swayed to oppose Medicare for all. This seems so evil. How can we tailor a message so that they hate something that's good for them? That is what Biden is trying to do with his pollsters. The survey found that Democrats are most swayed to oppose Medicare for all when told it would cost American taxpayers $3.2 trillion per year. 51% of Democratic primary voters said they found that argument convincing, while 43% said they did not. So what we have to do is educate that 53%, because those are good people too. They're just fooled by the message. The poll also found that 51% of Democratic voters said the argument that it would end Medicare as we know it was convincing, while 53% said the claim that it would lower quality of care for seniors was convincing. 51% said the argument that Medicare for all could expand wait times and limit access to Medicare medical access was convincing. So you see that those are three parts that they're talking about. So let's deconstruct those three parts. The poll found 51% of Democratic voters said the argument that it would end Medicare as we know it. Why is that a bad thing? We have to sell that reality as a good thing. Right now, Medicare as we know it has a donut hole where you end up paying thousands of dollars still for your prescriptions. Right now, Medicare as we know it also has a 80-20 where you pay 20% till a certain amount and they pay 80%. Now, if you go to Medicare Advantage, that is a private thing that costs the government 20% more money. So whereas instead of you paying the 20%, the government pays that private insurance company 20%, a direct transfer of wealth from the treasury to the private company. Why don't Americans know this? Because it's not something politicians going to tell them, because the people who pay the politicians to screw you, they're not going to say, we paid the politicians to screw us so they give us more money with Medicare Advantage. So it's a ripoff, but what we are here for at Politics Done Right is to let folks understand what is really going on. The only reason a lot of this stuff is so high in price is because those rich people have to get their cut. That is the truth, and we can back all this up with data. Okay, so it says, it will end Medicare for all as we know it. What we need to say when they say that is, yes, we want Medicare for all. We want Medicare as we know it to end, so that we can have Medicare for all, so that that old person no longer has to pay that 20%. They no longer have to buy part this and part that to supplement their Medicare. They no longer have to do that. They go with a card to get their service. No money is exchanged because it's all covered within the envelope that we all pay for. Medicare for all, paid for by all of us. The more you make, the more you pay. It's that simple. Now, the other thing that people were 53% claimed that it would lower quality of care for seniors was convincing. Lower quality of care? Are you kidding me? Right now, a friend of mine says he does not want Medicare for all. This is a good friend of mine. He said, you know why a lot of us old people, he's an older guy, you know why a lot of us old people don't want Medicare for all? Because, let me tell you what happened to a friend of mine. She had breast cancer, and she had a special drug that they wanted to give her for diabetes. But because the diabetes was induced by her cancer drug, and they assumed that her diabetes would get back into the range after her cancer treatment, they aren't going to allow her to take this cancer drug. Huh? or rather take this diabetes drug. Huh? Here's the reality, though. The reality is that if you were in Medicare for All and your doctor says you need this drug, you get that drug. It's that simple. These are the things that we have to start telling people and not allowing these evil, immoral, unethical people like Joe Biden and his crew to lie to the American citizens. We cannot allow that. Otherwise, we are complicit in killing our fellow Americans. We cannot allow that. We have to tell the truth. The third item, it says, and 51% said the argument that Medicare for All could expand wait times and limit access to medical specialists was convincing. Really now, your private health insurance, please, whatever private insurance you have, for most PPOs, most HMOs, try to see a specialist. Call your provider and say, I need to see a specialist now. Huh? I tell you, my wife started working for the school district, which got much better insurance than I had, which I paid more than twice as much for as I'm a self-employed person. And you know what? Even with that great insurance, you call to see a specialist. Sometimes you have a 30-day wait, sometimes a 10-day wait. I mean, so let's not fool ourselves. And let's talk about lower care. You ask for a particular drug, you have to beg for it, and they say yes or no. A friend of mine who watches this show all of the time, she called into the show when we were discussing one of the issues. She said, my husband has cancer. They prescribed a particular drug for his cancer. They wanted to start it immediately. They told her no. They told her, we don't want to give that particular drug. We rather him have the operation. Huh? So, where we thought it was between you and your doctor, you had an external insurance company who never saw your husband or your wife or your daughter or your kid, who tells you, you can have this medicine, you cannot have this medicine. You can see this doctor, you cannot see that doctor. And the other thing that they do, in-network, out-network, you go to a hospital and you see a doctor. You assume that because they have your insurance and they know who's in network and who's not in network, that only the people in network will take care of you. Sometimes the doctor just walks into your room, take a look at you, give you a stethoscope, and then goes out and he bills. And he bills at full rate because he's not in network, but he's the one on the floor. Folks, the system today is evil, and we have to remind Americans what the system is like and what it is that we are what it is if they vote for the policies that we support, what they will get. The reason a lot of folks don't want it is it means a lot of lost money for a lot of rich people who've been pilfering us on making money on Americans being sick. It's evil. It's evil. Can we see that? Continuing. Sanders, the author of a Medicare for All bill pending in Congress, had been upfront about the high costs, but he and Warren have both argued that most Americans would come out financially ahead because their health care costs would drop. They argue that a single insurance plan would be the most cost-effective way to care for all Americans while allowing everyone to see their provider of choice. It's math. It's math. If you don't have all these other expenses, then you can cover everybody at a lower price. Because remember, everybody is still being covered. The only difference is this. If an uninsured person gets sick, they wait till they get sick, then they go to an emergency room, and then the emergency room sack it to them. And then who is it that pays that bill? You and I who have insurance, they have a fund, they take it out of that, and they take that money. Because the hospital get paid now. So let's be truthful here. Let's be truthful here, continuing. Notably, Democratic voters in the ALG research survey, that's a survey they did, were less swayed by the fear of losing private employer-based coverage. 45% said that argument was convincing, while 49% said it wasn't. Well, I thought according to all of those people, Americans just love their private insurance company. How the hell do you love a private insurance company who's solely there to deny you access to health care so that they can make more money in profit sharing for their shareholders, who can make more money for these executive bonuses? Think about that. That's all they care about. They don't care about you. Do you really think insurance companies are fighting to hold on to this system because they love you or they want to take care of you or they want you more healthy? A healthy you don't make them a penny. I want people to use their heads. A healthy America does not make an insurance company a penny. And therefore, they want to keep you. Two things they want to do. They want to make sure you're unhealthy, and they want to make sure you have coverage through them. The study conducted last month surveyed 813 Democratic primary voters in the election as part of an overall sample of 1,800 likely voters. It found that most general election voters also start off favoring Medicare for all, but that support diminishes once they hear arguments against it, which is typical, right? If somebody loves you, and then people start saying, "Oh, but you know, that person, he did that, or that person did that." Doesn't have to be true. You just put in doubts in their head. And if it's somebody you trust telling you, "Well, you know, I heard from this other guy that you did that he did that," and things start to change, it doesn't have to be truth at all. Okay? Jim Kessler, Third Way's Executive Vice President for Policy, said the poll shows that President Donald Trump is deeply underwater on health care, and the only lifeline that would pull him to shore is Medicare for all. I mean, when you hear a pollster, a centrist pollster says something like that, in other words, Donald Trump is underwater on health care, and the only way he can get above health care is if we go out there and tell them and try to provide good health care to Americans, even though he's down on health care. No, but that's not what they're doing. They don't want to have the real fight because they are just as bad. The establishment Democratic Party is no different than the Republican Party. No different. Because what they want is to keep the corporations sucking it to you. That's what they want, to keep the corporations sucking it to you. Otherwise, that sentence makes no sense. I want to read it again to show you the absurdity of that sentence, folks, to show you how stupid they think you are. They think the American population is so stupid that they would never understand these concepts. And if we as Democrats, progressive Democrats, buy into the crap and follow the centrist line, we will lose. And by the way, the corporations don't care whether Biden wins or loses, because they're just as happy with Trump, because Trump is doing everything the corporatocracy needs. Trump is doing everything the plutocracy needs. Trump is doing everything rich people need. You ever wonder why you don't hear any of these rich folks? People always bring race and all these craps in. None of that matters. Do you ever wonder why you don't hear Oprah talking bad about Trump? Do you hear Beyonce talking bad about Trump? Do you hear Kanye talking bad about Trump? Do you hear any of these wealthy people talking negative about Trump? No, they don't, because they are the class of the wealthy and he serves them well. Let's understand where the fight really is. It's for us, the middle class. Those are the people that have to stick together, because those at the top, they're happy with Trump. Don't ever believe for a minute that they're not. They don't like him, but he's not having any policy that will be detrimental to the immediacy of the wealthy. No policy that Trump has is negative to Oprah. No policy he has is negative to Bill Gates. Do you hear Bill Gates saying Trump is an evil person? How can he be? No, they don't. And the reason why is he's serving their purposes just fine. And when we understand those concepts, that it is a class war, and when I talk about class war, it's a good thing to plug my book. You see this book here? As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. I should have said the only resort to right-wing and centrist doom is what I should have said. You can get it at Amazon. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Folks, here's the deal, man. Here's the deal. These people are out to get you, because you are their funds. They continue to milk you for what it's worth. They grow at 9% and you don't grow at all, or you grow at 1%, which means their cut of the pie continues to grow. That's why Jeff Bezos has $160 billion. That's not his. That's your labor. That's your work. That's your intellect. He keeps it most. You keep just enough to buy your bread and some milk. We got to get it. We got to get in our heads that these guys are screwing us. The messages tested in the poll, continue with the article. The messages tested in the poll echo arguments made by Republicans against Medicare for All. Democrats are split on whether the proposal would be a liability in a general election or whether it would boost the party's hopes of defeating Trump by galvanizing voters. That's a statement that is saying, I am concerned that Americans are stupid and that somehow Republicans will be able to put a message in a form that says otherwise. Now, what I'm telling Democrats is if you have the Republicans against Medicare for All and the Democrats for Medicare for All, the Democratic argument will win the day because it makes sense. However, if you have the Republicans for Medicare for All and you have centrist Democrats, or rather, if you have Republicans against Medicare for All and you have centrist Democrats against Medicare for All and you have progressive Democrats for Medicare for All, what do you think the American population is going to think? They're going to think, well, God, if even if all Republicans are against Medicare for All and some Democrats are against it, oh my God, it sounds good, but maybe, in other words, you have to be in the fight. You have to be in the fight for minds. And when you are in the fight for minds, you win if you come with a united front. The problem is too many establishment Democrats are nothing more than economic frauds. And I mean that. They're frauds. Any Democrat claiming to be a progressive Democrat that does not support Medicare for All is nothing more than a Republican light. And that's not a nice place to be. And that's a losing message. And you know what? We Democrats will lose if the centrists peel off and go against Medicare for All. We will lose. So what we have to do is defeat these suckers in the primary and then create a message in the grassroots. This is going to be grassroots because ABC, CBS, MSNBC, none of these guys are going to be carrying our message. We are going to have to reach them the way we are doing it here today. Independently. We are going to have to touch flesh to flesh. Because even some of the Facebook threads are going to be throttled down so that as many people that should see your product won't see it. Even my show here has been throttled many a times because you're telling the truth. And your truth is against a plutocracy. And the plutocracy is you know whom. So folks, what I'm trying to tell us all, what I'm trying to remind us all, my brothers and my sisters, my brothers and my sisters, my brothers and my sisters, we have to do this. We have to do this one person at a time. Everywhere you go, when you hear the lies, you hit the lies. You tell folks, you send them here. If you need somebody to help, you send them to politicsdoneright.com. You send them to egbertowillies.com because that is what we have to do to win. We can win this. We can definitely win this. But I tell you something, brothers and sisters. We have to stick together and we have to overwhelm them. We have to overwhelm them by getting to the people first. Let me finish the article. And welcome aboard. Glad you're listening while you're driving, Brother Daniel S. Now, we have to win this argument, and we will. We will. But we have to do it. Let me finish with the article. It goes as follows. The survey also tested positive messages for Medicare for All. Again, you hear that? It tested positive messages. It showed that 78% of Democrats were swayed by the argument that the U.S. should join the rest of the world in making healthcare a right. In addition, 70% of primary voters were swayed by the argument that Medicare for All would get rid of out-of-pocket costs for anyone seeking care. You see, they needed to do all aspects of what works and what doesn't work because they need to know what never to touch. And think about that. When the positive comes out, we are north of 70%. When the negatives come out, we are still at 48%. Think about that. there's a positive bias to Medicare for all. There is a positive bias. So we should not allow them to change the narrative. We must not allow them to change the narrative. Kessler added that ALG Research has conducted polls for Third Way for many years and that Biden campaign didn't request the survey. Of course Biden campaign didn't request the survey. Why would he taint himself with the survey? He knows the survey is going to be coming to him. Let's not be fools here. He's the one that went out there and lied to the American people and said they're trying to take away the health care, the insurance of 150 million people. No. We're not taking away your insurance. We're giving you security. We're giving you insurance. That's the truth. Now, here's what I want to do, because this is important, what I want to do here. Beforehand, for the folks that are just joining us, that just joined us, a whole bunch just joined us again. What I want to do for you is this, my brothers and my sisters. I want to play this for you again. Some of you have heard it already, but I want to play. Why do we want to take healthcare away from the private sector? First of all, not take it away, because what I tell people is this. Look, you can go ahead and have Medicare for all, and if you want to buy private insurance for all the other stuff, go ahead and buy it. If you want petals in your bed, and if you want to have somebody walking in front of you with a perfume as you go to your quarters, as you go to your room, pay for it. But basic health care, the honorable thing, let's give it to all. But anyhow, this is why we should detach Medicare, or rather, we should detach health insurance from employers, because they can use it as a sabotage. They can use it to blackmail you. Look at what GM, with the strike that's going on now, is doing to their employees. Check this out.
We're supposed to have our benefits to the end of the month. Company decided they were going to cut them yesterday before the union was ready to take over with our strike fund. And we've had a couple members been sick. They couldn't get treated. We got a member with kid has cancer, went to get his treatment and couldn't get it. So we don't have 10 grand to put down and get reimbursed for. We're on strike. So they cut our benefits. They're affecting our families and kids, and this isn't a company that cares about people. This is a company that cares about the dollar. And there's another example right there. They don't care about this kid with cancer and his treatment. They just want us to pay for it.
There you go. So, folks, now I want to go into some bias here and show you how the mainstream media works. The mainstream media takes polls, misinterpret it, and that kind of reinforces people's belief. Oh my God, people don't really like Medicare for all that good stuff. So what I want you to do is I want you to listen to Chuck Todd yesterday.
The energy and enthusiasm of the Democratic primary moves to the left. Our latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll found the overall electorate of registered voters seem poised to reward a Democrat, but one who doesn't take things too far. First, there is good news for progressive Democrats who do favor big change in a few areas. Take a look at support for providing free tuition at state colleges and universities. 81% of Democratic primary voters support that idea, compared with 58% of registered voters. So a majority of voters overall. Pretty good sign for that idea. And what about providing college for so-called dreamers? 89% of Democrats support that, along with 67% of all registered voters. Again, some synergy there. And remember when supporting a public option was considered politically risky? Well, 78% of Democrats support allowing people under 65 to buy their health coverage through a Medicare program, along with 2/3 of registered voters. But as some Democrats have argued, not all progressive ideas have a majority support among all voters. Take certain parts of health care. While 64% of Democrats want to give government health care to undocumented immigrants, only 36% of all registered voters agree. And 63% of Democrats support a Medicare for all single-payer health care system in which, quote, private health insurance would be eliminated, compared with only 41% of registered voters who would like to see that. Look, for the past generation, pollsters have found this to be a center-right country on some of these policies, something that has favored moderate Republicans on some fiscal issues. But while these numbers suggest a shift to the left, it's not yet to the extent that progressive Democrats may want. Maybe we're center-center or heading to center-left. These numbers hint that if the party's nominee moves too far, too fast to placate primary voters, he or she may have a hard time tacking back to the center in the fall.
And of course, Chuck Todd there is full of hagwash, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about that later. But let me go to the caller who wants to talk. Okay, caller, you're on. Caller, you're on.
This is Bill Egberto.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to tell you that the tapes that you've played for us are inaudible. At least I couldn't hear it. It needs to be turned up.
Oh, you can't hear those? Oh my God, I'm going to have to figure out what's going on there. I tell you what, we have links to it in the blog post. What I'll do for you is if you drop me a line, just to info@politicsdoneright.com, I'll send you all the videos that we played today and make sure that you're covered, okay?
Great, thanks.
Thank you so kindly. Anything else you want to add, sir?
No.
Great, thank you. Let me continue. You have a wonderful day, my friend. Okay, continuing. So here's what Chuck Todd is saying. The question that they asked the people is, do you support, when they wanted to come out with a number to tell Americans that Medicare for All did not have support. So how did they frame the question to people? They did it twice. The first frame is, do you support Medicare for All? The answer was more than 70% supported Medicare for All. Then they asked the question again, another part of the poll. Do you support Medicare for All if you're losing your private insurance? And of course the answer dropped down, right? And then they come back and they say, oh, well, this proves to you that if you move too much to the left, Americans are not with you. It's a lie. When you tell, if you describe the policy and say, are you going to support Medicare for All if you lose your private insurance? That's all. If that is all you've told the person, I would say no. You know why you would say no? You would say no because you do not know what comes after. What does that mean, losing your private insurance? And when I tell you I have the smartest listeners, I mean bar none. Before I could do my own research, I had somebody who did the research. And he comes back and he actually brings an article. And the article that he brought to me is titled, Majority Backs Medicare for All, Replacing Private Plans, if preferred providers stay. So you see what I'm saying? Here's another poll that asks the same question, but just gives more information. What did they say? If you get Medicare for All and it replaces private insurance, but you can stick with the doctor you have, but you can stick with the, would you still want Medicare for All? Zoom right back up. Again, what people want is certainty and know that they're going to be taken care of. They want to know that they won't die. They want to know that if they get sick, there's a doctor to see. They don't want some magical thing that's going to hurt them in the long run. You're right about that, Daniel. Chuck is a legacy shill. But so what I'm saying is the dishonesty that is occurring in this debate is not. Look, we expect the dishonesty from the 28% of people that are Republicans. We expect, not the people, but the leadership. We expect the leadership of the Republican Party, the 28%, to lie to their people. And of course, their people more than likely believes them because you have an affinity for the group that you're with. And I want to play you something about, I'm so sorry that my friend on the phone cannot hear. I'm going to have to figure out exactly what's going on there because he's the second person that reported that when we play, somehow it doesn't go out there. So we're going to have to check the wiring to see exactly what's going on. Here's the deal. I'm going to check that after the show. I can't do it right now. Here's the deal. And let me just, for the caller on the phone, let me tell you what this video is going to say. This video is going to say that we, as a people, as human beings, are generally trusting. And it's a good thing to be trusting. The only problem with trusting is for the few times, and most relationships are trusting and it works out. But for the few times corporations or a loved one or whatever use trust to harm, it can be bad. And in this is one of the cases where trusting the wrong person, the wrong corporation, the wrong message can be wrong. And what I want to do is, I know you can't hear it, I am going to try to put a microphone next to a speaker to see if that is helpful while I play it, and because I really want everybody to be in the house. Let's see. It goes as follows. Malcolm Gladwell. Here we go.
The core of this book is about how we encounter people and whether we trust them and don't trust them.
Yes, it is about the strategies we use to make sense of strangers. You know, if you think about this from a kind of evolutionary perspective, we evolved in intimate groups, family groups, ethnic groups, where all the strategies we use to communicate with each other were carried out and honed on people who we had a great deal of history with, and more than history, intimacy with. It's only in the last couple of hundred years, you know, a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of our time on this planet, that we've been forced into regular communication with people outside those groups. And so we're taking strategies honed in one context and using them in another. And the argument of the book is the strategies don't work, or they don't work well, when they're transferred from affinity groups and intimate groups to people with whom we have no history or nothing in particularly in common.
And is the core issue that you are instinctively trusting of groups within your small family type setting, and you know, when you apply that to a broader group, you can get fooled very often.
So this is an idea. It's one of the core ideas in the book, and it comes from a really brilliant psychologist named Tim Levine at University of Alabama. And he's trying to answer the question of, from an evolutionary standpoint, why are we so easily fooled? Does it make any sense? You would think that over time, evolution would have favored people who were good at detecting lies because they would have an advantage. And Levine says, actually, no, that's wrong. The people who have an advantage from an evolutionary standpoint are those who trust implicitly, because trusting implicitly allows you to have far more efficient communication. It allows you to build organizations. It allows you to develop social rituals and functions and all kinds of things. If I start from the premise that you, Fareed, are who you say you are, we can very quickly set in motion a whole chain of productive events. If my first thought is, I don't know, is your name even Fareed? Did you really go to Yale? Is this CNN? I don't know. You let me in here and you're blind? I mean, that just sidetracks us. So
But presumably that trusting instinct has the danger that you get fooled, and is the argument that it's a price worth paying because every now and then you'll get fooled, but in the grand scheme of things, by trusting people, you'll get more done.
Exactly. That is the argument. That is Levine's argument. That is my argument. And I don't think we're aware of this trade-off. And I think every now and again, we get in trouble when we're fooled, and we think that being fooled is somehow a sign that we are negligent or incompetent. And we overreact, and we build institutions that don't trust anymore. We give up on the very thing that made us human.
Okay, so as you can see, what do you get from that? What I got from that message, and yesterday when I watched it on Fareed Zakaria, I said to myself, I have got to play this tomorrow. And the reason I've got to play this tomorrow is to tell progressives what we have to do is build that trust so that then they implicitly trust what we say. Notice what he says. Once you have that trust, which we're implicitly trustful, but who do we trust? We trust the Republicans who've been screwing us all the time, or we trust the progressives who haven't gotten a chance to do things because many times they're so fearful of their own shadow that they don't just go out there and earn your trust. My thing is, go earn the trust. Let me go to the caller. Caller, were you able to hear that at all?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what I did is I kind of rigged it so you could. Anything else you want to add before I finish the show?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, my friend. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you, my brothers and my sisters, are as follows. It is incumbent on us progressives now. It's incumbent on us now to start earning the trust, being reliable, being forceful, being strong, being unapologetic, and hitting the other side hard. The other side, when I talk about the other side, I'm not talking about people. Remember, what Gladwell is saying is something we have to understand. My Trumpian brother and my Trumpian sister, I love them. We disagree, but I understand that they decided to put their trust in somebody else. I have to earn that trust from them to us. I love all those folks. let's understand what the message is from Gladwell. We humans are inherently trusting. And therefore, who do you trust? You earn the trust. And that is how we turn this thing around. We wrestle the trust, the false, we wrestle the unwarranted, the undeserved trust that many have in believing the Bidens of the world, in believing the Republican leaderships of the world. We take away that trust because we have to point out and make it be known they are evil. They are inherently unethical. They are immoral. Anybody that knows the truth and is going to allow you to die is immoral. Anybody, as in Texas, we always tell you in Texas, we know what's right. It's immoral. Okay, let's go to 93, is it 937? 937, come on in. Oops, wrong call.
This is Bill.
A wrong call. I think it's a wrong call. I need to go to the other call. I think it's 314. 314, come on in.
What are you talking about today, man?
Well,
climate control or getting off of fossil fuels?
Oh, the fossil fuel things I did already. I blogged about it.
Yes. I want to add something that people don't realize when you're talking about fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't use internal combustion engines, you still have to have lubricating oils for whatever mode of power source that you have.
That's not a problem at all, sir. I mean, I don't see how that makes it into the argument at all.
Well, you haven't let me finish.
Okay, sure.
You haven't let me finish.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In the process of taking a barrel of crude oil and deriving a lubricant from it, you're going to have other products along the way, i.e. jet fuel, kerosene, diesel,
I understand
gasoline,
fracking, sir.
And some naphtha. All right. So, if you go through the process to produce a high-quality lubricating oil, those other products are going to be there. So if you did never use gasoline again, you have to store it. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to evaporate because it wants to get back to its natural state.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that to you.
I mean, the problem is that argument is so uninformed. I hate to tell you it that way. I'm an engineer, so the good thing about it is I can tell you exactly what happens there. First of all, the first thing that you should know is getting lubricants. It's not necessary, first of all, to use petroleum products as your lubrication base. It is quite easy to create the same kind of lubricants now out of plant-based material. And guess why? Because, you can actually create these different carbon strings, the Chon strings is what you call them. You can create them right now out of other materials. The fallacy is, and that's what the oil company would like you to believe, and that is the propaganda they put out there. They would like you to believe that the only way for you to get a lubricant is to somehow frack the petroleum that's been in the ground for several million years. Look, that's one option, and the other option after fracking the oil. And by the way, you don't have to burn it. You can actually fracture the molecules and then throw the remains right back from whence they came. So that argument.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, go
What
ahead.
kind of engineer are you?
I am a mechanical engineer with let me finish. I'm a mechanical engineer. I also took several petroleum classes, and of course, all of us in the first 2 years have to take all the chemistry and basic kinematic courses. So I know what I'm talking about.
Well, my grandson graduated from Louisiana State University with a degree in gas and petroleum.
Sure.
Also, second major in business with energy minor, and intern with ExxonMobil.
Okay.
Also spent time over in Russia.
We got to close the show, so tell me what your point.
Over in Russia. Well, let me tell you. He says that we're doing it the best way right now.
And he's wrong. So
go ahead and close it.
We can talk about that another time because I got to close the show, but he's absolutely wrong. We'll talk about it the next time you call, okay? Thank you, sir. Anyhow, folks, thank you so kindly for the show. As usual, I couldn't do it without you. I'm going to be about a minute over today because I need to put my promo on, of course. Folks, please remember this is a show that needs your support. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Support the show. Look, we are doing this as a, how do I like to say this? We are doing this because we think we have to. The reason I gave up on science, my brother who just called, always says it's a lot more lucrative to do programming than what I did before, but this is where we need to be. If we want a planet in the future, if I want my daughter to have a better life, somebody has to do it. I figured I have a big mouth. Why not it be me? But what I do ask is that we support this progressive message. Let's not leave it in the hands of the corporatocracy who will continue to rip you off. Let's not leave it in the hands of folks who care nothing about you. Let's take it over. But to take it over, we have to do our small part. We don't cost what MSNBC costs. We're cheap, pennies. So we ask you to please support our endeavor. Patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Or you can just go to politicsdoneright.com. That's what you see on the screen right now. Politicsdoneright.com. And support us however you can. We have a GoFundMe for more technology that we need. We also have the store that you can go to, store.politicsdoneright.com. And you can go, again, there are several ways that you can help move the message forward. And you can help us make sure we don't cave to those who are trying to rip us off or harm us. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this program. I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.